Hey, I'm Zsolt. I hosted the Sketch Your Mind conference last week. If you participated at the conference, thank you. The energy and engagement were mind-blowing. We had over 2,000 people register and well over 1,000 attend. I'm sure I will cherish the memory of this event for a long time to come. To a very great extent, the conference, its topics, its presenters, and its open, playful, inclusive atmosphere stand for what I believe in, for who I am. You can think of it as a manifesto of how I think about PKM, visual thinking, and collaboration. To make these amazing talks and ideas available to even more people, I will be releasing recordings here on my channel one every few days. I considered different approaching to sequencing the releases, but finally decided to simply follow the conference schedule. So today I'm releasing session 1, Welcome to Sketch Your Mind. In the show notes below, I will be including links and supporting resources for every talk. For the final session, I created and shared a huge Excalidraw whiteboard with notes from all the sessions. You'll find a link to it below. Be sure to check it out. To make the conference feel even more special, I created original music for each session. These were played as you were all waiting for the session to begin. I will include the matching song at the end of each video. Finally, 2 short notes before we dive into the first session. First, if you like what you're seeing, please check out the visual thinking workshop, my book, Sketch Your Mind, try the Obsidian and Excalidraw plugin, and download the album for the conference. Links are all included in the description below. At the upcoming Visual Thinking Workshop, we are going to be exploring Nir Eyal's book, Indistractable, and practice converting a book into 4D Lego blocks. The course is built around the mindset framework and consists of live, hands-on sessions where we practice concept mapping, concept visualization, storyboarding, authoring hybrid notes, and many more visual PKM skills. The course is delivered in a time zone friendly way such that every session is on twice, once for Europe and US, then for Asia Pacific and Europe. Second, the quality of my camera recording in the session is not very good. I'm sorry for that. The good news is, video was great for all the other presenters. So without further ado, here's the first session of the conference. Enjoy. So I have a story for you, and this is the story. So first of all, as I said, welcome, and this is my invitation for you into the conference. What you will notice on the conference door is the manifesto from Sketch Your Mind, and we're going to be talking about this manifesto in a bit. But to lead us to this conversation, I wanted to start here, that you can hear this and read this everywhere, and I fully sign up to these statements that writing is thinking, and the way we think, the way we express ourselves is through writing and the process of formulating a sentence. I love this statement from Educated that a poorly written sentence is a poorly conceived idea. I think this is fully true. But on the other side, there's this statement or saying as well, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And of course, when you think about pictures
Pictures are sort of like a compression of meaning. They carry feeling, they carry meaning, and you can understand images holistically at a glance, which means that when you're using images, so let's just see, does anyone hear me? Because I now saw Joseph, yes, you can hear me. So then, okay, good. So illustrations are compressions of meaning, and with compression, the effective bit rate increases. Which means that the amount of information you can carry in a given moment increases. So while it is true that writing is thinking, text in my mind is like one finger typing, and visuals are like when you're touch typing. And the last idea here is, of course, if you think about it, our ancestors, who are very similar to us in terms of genetics, did not survive on the savannah by reading bullet points. They had this spatial awareness, they were using their eyes, and they navigated visually. And so for me, this boils down to this conflict that on one hand side, there's writing is thinking, which I fully sign up to, but in the other side, you have one picture is worth 1,000 words, and there's this conflict between the two. And I guess the question is, can this be resolved? This is, of course, a visual thinking conference, but how does writing and pictures come together? And in this sense, I love this quote from William Sorian, that he says that one picture is worth 1,000 words. Yes, but only if you say or think those 1,000 words. And for me, that's the link. Just creating an image, of course, you get a feeling, but when you're able to connect it with words, that's when meaning comes about. And so, in this sense, I think the holy grail, the big question is, how can you get the best of two worlds, of writing and of visual thinking? And in a way, this is the inception of the mindset framework that I'm going to be sharing a little bit about later on in this presentation. And so this is what is at the heart of what I'm trying to convey in my book, on my YouTube channel, in the workshops, that I personally love to read, love to think, love to draw, love to write, and most of all, I love to play. I am a productivity heretic, if you could say that. I don't believe in setting strenuous targets that you're trying to achieve by sheer force. I believe that if you have passion for something, then that is going to drive you forward to achieve much more than just setting targets. So I was looking for a way to combine these 5 things together. And so this leads me to the manifesto that I think the first statement I want to highlight here is that in my mind, text and visuals are equal partners. You could say that they are ambidextrous thinkers, or right hand, or the text, or left hand, or the visuals. And it is not like you put illustrations into a document. For me, then they are not equal partners. I always have this strange thought when people say that they want to store their images in their assets folder, and then they have their documents that is the core of their note-taking system. In my mind, I don't sign up to that. I believe that visuals are notes in themselves, just as texts are notes, and I believe in the power of bringing these two together. Now, the next thought here is that, of course, the power of visuals and text comes together, for example, when you're listening to something or you're reading something, you're reading words, and the words will come in sequence. And as you read, you will try to make sense of the content that you're reading, and you're going to connect new concepts with existing concepts, and you're going to be creating these relationships. But when you're able to put that on paper, you're able to draw the what's in your head, then what you get is this detachment gain. You can step back and you can look at your own thoughts from a distance, and you can reflect on those thoughts. And so that is what my whole framework and what I'm going to be showing you a sneak peek of is about. And so what I'm after in this ambidextrous visual and textual thinking is to move. It's a shift from visual thinking as a tool where I create a sketch note, I create a diagram, I create a mind map, to visual thinking as a system where I link ideas through visuals, where I think in visuals, and where I connect text and visuals tightly. And so, and of course, all of this in the sense that it is playful. As I mentioned, for me, play is at the heart of creativity. Play is at the heart of living a good life. And so let's just quickly cover what I mean by four-dimensional thinking. For me, that is this moving from visuals as tools to visuals uh, as a tool. The one-dimensional thinking is when you jot things down. I had a friend many years ago. She was always taking notes on Post-it notes. And she had her bag full of Post-it notes. She had her refrigerator full of Post-it notes, but these were individual notes, all had lots of text in it. So for me, one dimension is you have individual disconnected piece of sheets or notes, and each of them you need to read linearly. So you can see here that you need to start at the top right and read to the no, top left and read to the bottom right. Of course, depending on language, the sequence is different, but you're consuming information in a linear way. But then there's two-dimensional thinking, and that's when you have a notebook, when you have a maybe your diary, or you create folders and you uh, pay, place your notes in there. So these notebooks remind me of my university years when I was creating notes on my subjects, and I place them into these different folders. This is great because now I can flip through the pages. It's not mess, but it is still not ideal. And this is where the personal knowledge management and link thinking comes in, and we'll have an awesome session with Jerry Michalski tomorrow, who's going to show us how to take this to the maximum with his connected brain of over, I don't remember Jerry now, but I think it's 600,000 individual notes. So be sure to come tomorrow and check out Jerry's session. But this is the next level when you're connecting text. So you have three dimensions because you have textual notes, you have links between the text, and of course, the individual notes are still mostly text-based notes. And that's how you work. And this is good. I think this is already a huge step forward, but it still only uses half of your brain, because the other half that deals with visual thinking, with pattern recognition, with spatial awareness is left out of just the linked notes. So this is 3D thinking, and this is where we go to 4D thinking, which you will see how it works in my case, and I can see 620,000 notes in Jerry's brain today. So This is 4D thinking. When you have the individual nodes are spatial and visual, like this node right here. So this is actually what you see here is a node from my note-taking system. And you will see that actually each of these parts are Lego blocks on it that I can reconfigure in other nodes. So in 4-dimensional PKM, you have interconnected, linked visual nodes that each of them are nonlinear, but have a text supporting them. And this network of nodes, I think, is really where really the next level in terms of how you can handle your nodes. And so this is, in a nutshell, the new paradigm for thinking that I'm advocating in my book, but overall that I'm super passionate about. And so let's first look at this aspect of what Lego, the Lego approach means and how that works. So essentially, I'm thinking of each individual icon here. So this is an icon, this is an icon, this is an icon. All of these pieces are individual icons or pieces of illustrations that I have simple icons that I can put together into concept visuals. So this is a concept visual that you can see right here that I can build into bigger and bigger structures, and I can reconfigure it in many ways. And for me, this reconfiguration with Lego blocks is what makes thinking playful. That I can actually, get into this flow state where time disappears. And this is what I mean by productivity heretic. I'm a flow believer. I believe that. And by the way, make sure that you join Wednesday morning. Brandy Agerbeck is going to talk about the flow state and how you can get to flow state with visual thinking. So this is for me the whole objective. But of course, if you think about Lego, Lego is a surprising piece of game because at its heart, it's super constrained. So you have the studs at the top, you have the cubes at the bottom, you have standard sizes. There's lots of constraints that come with Lego, and those constraints actually create the opportunity to play. And I advocate 3 basic constraints that will help an effective Lego approach. I recommend using a standard size set of standard sized icons and text, etc., because when you mix them in different configurations, then having standard sizes will make sure that they actually connect. Having a standardized color palette, because if you have many different sources of ideas, you put them together, you can have a consistent looking piece of art. And there's the size, the forcing function, which means that if you look at each of my illustrations are within a card. I do believe in infinite canvases, but I think working on a card actually focuses your attention. And so let me show you a little bit now around. So I stopped the presentation and I'm going to just navigate here a little. So first of all, so this is Obsidian Excalidraw. Obsidian is the note-taking tool. Excalidraw is the plugin that I'm developing for Obsidian to implement all of these ideas I'm talking about. If I open this, then you will see that this illustration opened up in its own separate node. And by the way, here I can click Obsidian and I can see the so-called backlinks. These are all the different presentations where I'm using this particular visual. But of course, this visual consists of Lego blocks. For example, it consists of my size guide, which looks like this. And again, no surprise, the size guide is used in a whole bunch of different configuration. We are going to look at it at the moment, but I can go further down. And of course, I can look at this individual icon for a picture, which is its own Lego block as well. Again, I use it in all sorts of different configuration. You might have spotted it already. So for example, I use it here as well. And this is, of course, the same icon as in the other locations, or I can go to another one. So for example, the 7-step concept visual process. So this is an illustration. Again, I use this. But the interesting bit, and this is something where when I was having a chat with Jerry, again, Jerry Michalski, where he said this clicked for him is if, for example, I color this part of this picture, then when I come back to any of the drawings where it appears, then you can see that it was updated here. And of course, it's going to update here. And this is going to be a ripple effect upstream to all of my visuals. So for example, I showed you that I'm using this visual right here. Hopefully it's going to update in a second, but equally, this visual appears on this card. And so this card right here is a part of a bigger Lego. And this Lego takes me to my mindset framework. So this is the framework that I cover at the visual thinking workshop. It will load in a second, and then you will see that there selected is our card, or with our picture with the blue sun in this case, and of course it's part of a bigger Lego. And so this is what I mean, and let's just close all of these. This is what I mean by this Lego approach, that all of the parts that you can see here on my various visuals, these parts ripple through to different illustrations, and they become different. Yeah, there you go. So it was updated here as well, part of different compositions. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what I mean by these simple icons that build up to storyboards and that tell different stories and perspectives. And then if we continue this, and in a second, we're going to stop for a bit of a game where you can practice this. There's one more thing I wanted to show before we can actually do the play together. So what I wanted to show you here is the other part of my model. So far we talked about how pictures can be broken down into Lego pieces and how you can build different illustrations and connect these into an interconnected web. But then the other important part is what I call the front and back approach. Think of every note as a postcard. On the front of the postcard, I have the picture. On the back of the postcard, I can add text. So for example, if now I stop the presentation here and I open this card, so you can see, by the way, you can also see that here I only have this illustration, but it was carved out from this part of the picture. But if now I open this document in Obsidian, I can open this as a markdown. And by the way, I don't know what Nicole van der Hoven is going to be talking about right after this. We will see, because a year ago she converted all her notes to what I call hybrid notes. So there's a textual back and a visual front, and we're going to see what happened after a year. So keep fingers crossed she's still using that, but we'll learn. So if I click here to open this as a markdown document, then you can see that this is the very same file, but on the back of the note, I can have text. So you can see here, I have a link to a video. I have some other links here. I have a description of the idea and so on. So I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but what I want to show you is each of the cards that you can see here in the presentation are postcards in and of themselves. And on the back, I have notes that include additional thoughts, maybe talking points if it's a presentation, references, source references, whatever. So this way, for me, this holy grail of bringing text and visuals together into a shared environment becomes a possibility. And so with this, I think we are ready to move into, and the app is Obsidian and Excalidraw. I'm going to have a link at the end. I can see there's a question here in the chat. So Excalidraw is the drawing tool. Obsidian is the note-taking tool. But so first of all, I need to, I mean, if I were to talk about everything, you can see that there's pretty lots of topics to talk about, and this is still the top of the iceberg. We don't have time for that, but we are going to play a little. And so the game that I'm thinking of is the following. Many years ago, so this is at least 15 years ago, I was at a workshop with colleagues, and we were playing this game as an icebreaker that the facilitator handed out a small bag of Lego pieces. It was 7 Lego pieces or 8, I don't know, you can count it here, in uh, a bag, and you had to create a duck. And so everyone created a duck, and there were actually 15 ducks. So this is just a small portion of the table with the many ducks. The amazing thing was that there was no 2 ducks that looked the same. So we are now going to play the Lego duck exercise, and we're going to play it in the following way. We're going to illustrate a quote by Albert Einstein. So play is the highest form of research. And we're going to go through 2 steps. In step 1, we are going to be using the chat. In step 2, we are going to be using Excalidraw to work together. So the first bit we're going to do is we're going to reflect on the quote itself. And this one, I'm stealing the idea from Nick Milo. He's going to be in the conference Friday, the 2nd session, so be sure to join him. I learned this at the Linking Your Thinking conference from him, or not, actually conference and the course. It's the surface and depth method. It's a very simple method. It says that you think about the quote and you say that on the surface, this is about, and then you continue and complete the sentence that, but this is really about, and that's where you're sharing something personal. So for example, my piece here is that on the surface, this means that research requires playfulness, the ability to take imaginative solutions seriously. But in reality, this is about the misguided nature of an obsession with productivity and performance metrics. When you're playing, the question is never if you have achieved enough, but if you are continuing to have fun. And so for me, that's my surface and depth for this quote. So I would like to ask you to take one moment, or not one moment, a minute or so. Think about your sentence. On the surface, this is about, but this is really about. And in the chat, just drop in your answer. So I'm going to wait for a few answers to pop up here in the chat, and then we'll continue with the exercise. But so first, please, let's do this surface and depth discussion. On the surface, this quote is about, but it is really about, and you can complete the sentence. So let's see who's first with a sentence. Yeah. So bring childlike working without constraints. On the surface, this is about creating the moment with a smile on my face, but reality about letting go of comparing with others. Yeah, I think that's super important. On the surface, it's about method, but it's really about skipping methods. Yes, I love that. On the surface, about this is about users' insight of who if things are moving so fast that I can't read, but it's really about letting go of predetermined ideas. Yes. Surface, it's about being creative. It's about having fun while working, but this is really about subverting expectations around the kind of output is produced by work. I love that. Awesome. So thank you. And of course, keep thinking about this because the reason you created this is we're going to be using this in the next step. Because in the next step, what we're going to be doing is we're going to use Excalidraw to draw. And let me switch over. So if you, I'm going to paste this link. I'm actually going to paste it in here in chat. And I'm going to pin it. So hopefully you can see the link at the top. It's pinned. If you click on that, then let me share my screen for a second, the other window. If and let's bring this here. Okay, so okay, so hopefully you can see this now. So if you click on that link, so the link is pinned at the top of the discussion, then it's going to take you to Excalidraw. I'm going to give you just 1 minute. Hopefully everyone can open up Excalidraw. I'm just going to wait a little. When you have Excalidraw open, it's probably going to open something like this. If you want to move the canvas around, there's a couple of ways to do it. If you're on a tablet, you need to hold down your 2 fingers and then you can pan with 2 fingers, or you need to hold down the middle mouse wheel and move the mouse, or you can press space and use the left mouse button and you can pan the area. Okay, and if you can just give me quick feedback if Excalidraw has loaded for a few people so I can see that it is there. Yes, awesome, thank you. Okay, so the game is the following. I'm going to come down here. So you see that I have a sticky note here and I have an empty card here. On the right-hand side, I have a couple of icons. It's a set of, I think, 36 icons. I ask you to use these icons and you can, of course, use any additional pieces. So you can draw or you can color or whatever, but create an illustration for this quote within this box and then articulate your idea here in the sticky note. And once you're done, then you will still have a couple of steps to do. I explain it here, but I'm going to show it to you now. So once you're done, then select these 2 items and then click here on the hamburger menu and select export image. Make sure that you export only the selected and you include the background, and then you can export this to a PNG. This is going to save this to your local machine. And then head over to this link right here. And this is where, because unfortunately in the conference chat, we are not able to share images, but here, if you click on this, this is going to open a chat. And here you can just simply attach your image and just enter it here. And this way we will have a collection of these images that we can look at what you created. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to play with this, and I'm going to be monitoring void chat. And when I see that we have a good number of ready illustrations, then I'm going to come back. So again, use these icons. You don't need to use all of them. You can resize them if you need to, but work from these icons. You can just simply drag them here. If you want, you can resize them on the corner, and you can add additional text that you can also color if you need to. Create your illustrations and then describe what it means. And once you're done, select it, export image to PNG. Make sure only selected and background are there. You will see what's going to be exported. Head over to void chat. You can click the link right there. And in void chat, you can just simply add in the image. So, and in the meantime, if you have a question, I'm monitoring here the conference chat. So I'm going to answer questions if they come up. And maybe we'll give us 3 minutes. We'll listen to this song again. Hopefully, if it bothers you, you can put it on mute, but I think it's just nice to feel the void.
We're stuck in the folders, the linear lines, pages of text in a text-first design. It's three-dimensional but half of the mind is waiting for something we left behind. We've got a GPU, a visual core, but the power is dormant. We need so much more. Now flip the perception, let the sketches be seen. With hybrid notes, knowledge is active and keen. Like a bucket of Lego, standardized parts, modular ideas, sparking new arts. We're breaking the rules of the page and the scroll, creating a system that takes back control. It's time to go for the break the old form, weather the limits and ride out the storm. Sketch your mind, turning notes into a playground of ideas. Oh, the visuals that'll cast an instant recall, a holistic connection that's open to all. Yeah, we'll build it, we'll share it, we'll make it our own. Our knowledge is system, a seed we have sown. The text is the backside, the detail and source, the visuals, the postcard, the emotional force. We're ambidextrous thinkers, using both hands, moving past bullet points to where the mind expands. The map is a territory laid out on the wall, a living creation that answers the call from engineers' mind to the Obsidian screen. The Excalidraw plugin shows us where we have been. Like a bucket of Lego, standardized parts, modular ideas, sparking new arts. We're breaking the rules of the page and the scroll, creating a system that takes back control. It's time to go for the break the old form, weather the limits and ride out the storm. Sketch your mind, turning notes into a playground of ideas. Oh, the visuals that'll cast an instant recall, a holistic connection that's open to all. Yeah, we'll build it, we'll share it, we'll make it our own. Our knowledge is system, a seed we have sown. Find the idea compass, let the structure appear. Serendipity machine brings the far-fetched connection near. You don't need to be able to draw a straight line. Just look at your concepts and make them shine. It's time to go for the break the old form, weather the limits and ride out the storm. Sketch your mind, turning notes into a playground of ideas. Whoa, the visuals that'll cast an instant recall, a We're stuck in the folders.
All right, so thank you. Wow, I can see items come in. So let's take a look at some of them. So let's just zoom in. So, okay, music is just playing around with music and arranging sounds with sounds good together, and hence creation of magic through such playing around, tinkering of sounds. Often the best way of understanding anything is to dive into and start playing around with the components, and eventually things will fall in place in our understanding of what each component that will initially played around with actually does. And I so much sign up to this idea. My experience is that if I want to illustrate a concept or if I want to understand something, I drop things into my Excalidraw board and I start to arrange it in different ways, and eventually an understanding emerges. Such a good piece. So a child is playing to visualize play, equal sign to lab items and the infinite symbol as an infinite multiplication of the concept. Yes, I like the hand-drawn equal sign there as well. Play is the true hallmark of humanity. I'm fully with you. I think that is one of our core strengths as people. Amazing. All kinds of play and trial just for the sake of trying enable inventions, new viewpoints, the unthought and unimagined. Amazing. So, I mean, I'm not going to, you can also flip through all of these illustrations and I'm going to capture them and somehow make them available. So if you want to explore them later on, then you can do that. But let me head back to my presentation and let me just share that. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share this window. If I find it, yes, this one. And so to continue with the story, so hopefully you enjoyed that game. And this is actually, let me show you what I created as my version of this illustration. So to me, the seeds of a new idea are often born when we allow our imagination to wander. That's when we have lateral thoughts. I love De Bono and all of his work. So I actually have, okay, so this is not very big, but so these are some of the De Bono books I've read. And of course, you might be familiar with Six Thinking Hats. And for me, play is essentially the gateway to lateral thinking. And these thoughts are like seeds we sow as they grow and develop over the years. At the end of the journey, exploration and play are the world's big discoveries. And I miss an apostrophe there. And so this actually reminded me of some of these other cards that I created in my notes. So as I was creating this illustration, by the way, you will see that there is some repeat. So I have the seats here and the child and of course here as well. These illustrations come from Rick Rubin's The Creative Act. And so that's just a side comment. That's an interesting book. At first, I thought it was not a very good book because it's fully disorganized, but I find myself returning to it very frequently. So it turns out it was a good book after all. And it talks a lot about this whole idea of experimentation. Actually, it starts here of planting many seeds and then with experimentation, gardening those seeds, of course, skipping all the rules, playing and expecting surprise and having a beginner's mind. I I highly recommend this book. And also I was pretty happy to create all of these cards around it. But so those are just some quick reflections on this. And so this takes us to the end of this presentation, and now we are open for Q&A. Again, let me remind you that there is a Q&A tab, and hopefully there are already upvoted items. I can see them, so I'm going to address those. Just one thing to call out. So you have a couple of links here. The bit I want to call out to your attention is the Visual Thinking Workshop Cohort 15. If you join this week, then you get the 35% off with this QR code. So this is a good thing to have in your pocket if you're interested. But let me start to go through the Q&A here. I can see that there were a couple of questions to disable confetti, but do think that using sketch or drawing to represent the visual concept, Lego block can increase cognitive load instead of reducing it, because you have to interpret the visual and have a negative effect to block your flow. I think that's a very interesting point, Pierre. Look, and I actually think it the other way around. There's a very interesting article, the syntactic theory of visual communication, that talks about this, that essentially our words are, so we can actually open this. So it talks about this idea of abstract thoughts versus concrete words. And the basic idea it talks about, give me just 1 second to find it was here. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to talk to this. It's a bit too much to jump into the right place here. So the basic idea is that our language is fundamentally what we remember better are concrete items. So if you're faced with two statements, one is an abstract big statement like freedom or love, etc., versus something concrete like a house, a horse, a whatever, what you're going to be remembering much better are the concrete. And I agree with you, Pierre-Luc, that it does take time to translate an idea, but I also believe that when we don't translate it, but we are just using big abstract words and don't dig deep to understand what they mean, then we are actually not understanding it. So the creation of a visual is difficult because you're translating an abstract idea into something concrete. And when you do that translation, you suddenly realize that one abstract idea translates into a dozen different concrete solutions, and you see a much broader spectrum of that idea. So yes, in a way, it stops flow in terms of a surface flow, but I also believe that it creates a much deeper understanding and the flow to understand the deep meaning. And yeah, maybe we can move on. By the way, if someone wants to join the stage, then you can do it like this. So I'm going to open up the stage. And so if you want to ask questions in person, you can also request to join, and then I'm going to let you in, and you can ask the question in person. But now I'm going to let's go on then with a question here. So you'll need to click accept and bring yourself to the scene. For someone who's getting started with 4D PKM for the first time, what is the best way to start? I would say the best way to start is somewhere where you will see in Nicole van der Hoven's presentation to start to create hybrid nodes with text on one side and visuals on the other, and then start to work from that. So start to think of your documents as a node and an illustration that are closely connected. And I think we have Anand here. So Anand, can you
Hi.
hear you?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. So go ahead with the
Oh,
question.
thank you for letting me. And I have one question. I just started Obsidian like a couple of months ago. I stumbled upon your work. I'm going through your book. Amazing, great work. A lot of great insights. I'm working on educate creating some education content, and I put it in the chat as well. Like if I put all my pieces together that I want to put, that canvas would be like at least a 10 by 10 feet wall. So, what is the card size, or typically where would I proceed to build such a big tree that encapsulates? I know bits and pieces a little bit, but I just didn't know how to integrate using your tools. If you have any resources or any guidance on that one, I would greatly appreciate it.
So I'm not sure I caught the actual question. So the question is, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you make a small card, like, what's the
Mhm.
typical size? How would you build it? How would you, store it? How would you, bring it and you create a larger canvas like you do in your presentation? Something like that. Do you have any
Yeah,
info, any documentation, or any
yeah.
videos that you can share?
So I have this what's called the size guide. And by the way, if you're reading the book, when
Right,
I talk about the constraints, there's a video link at the end of the chapter, and under the video you will find also the link to my size guide. So
right.
the size guide is essentially something I store um, in my stencil library in Excalidraw, and I can pull it up at any time and use it to size stuff. And
Okay,
you can see here that, for example, this would be a 4x2 card. By the way, this would be a 3x2 card here. This is probably, I mean, now it would need to go on one at top and up, but this also looks like a 4x2 card. This will be then a 1x6 card, just based on the look of it. So this is, for me, the sweet spot. Somewhere in this range is the individual. I think of these as index cards.
okay.
And then individual index cards, of course, can be put together. I wonder if yeah, here. So this is something I took from Doug Neal as his approach, the brick road approach to sketchnoting, where each tile is an atomic idea, and then you can create a big page of those ideas by simply uh, working one rectangle at a time. And
Right.
then, of course, I have some additional tools like here the pizza slicer, which deconstructs elements. So when I start to draw,
Right.
I sometimes have a, oh, and I'm not sharing my screen. Oh
Yeah,
boy,
I was about to say that.
I'm so stupid. Okay, so let's
Right.
just go back. So here, when I mentioned the sizes, so you can see here, this is a 4x2. This would be a 3x2 here. This would be another 4x2. This would be a 1x6 card.
Right.
And the other bit I was talking about is this brick road approach that I took from Doug Neal. There you have each card is an individual idea. In this way, this to some extent links to the Zettelkasten concept that each card is an atomic idea, and
Right.
then you place each of these next to each other. So you use these tiles to fill the page. So you go one imagined rectangle at a time. But yeah, so my sweet spot is somewhere the 3x2, 2x3, 2x2, that sort of range, but it depends on the idea. And in some cases, like you saw here in the Creative Act, I
Right.
decided to have uniform size cards for the book, or the other similar example is the periodic table of productivity. So this is the book by Ali Abdal. There I created each idea in the book. I tiled it together like this periodic table. And again, I had this size. We can take a look. What's the size of this? So these are actually 2x2 cards,
Okay.
each of them. So each
So this
item
is
here
something
is
you set it up in the template and you reuse it over and over.
yeah, and like in Lego, you have different size of pieces, but
Right.
using the size guide will result in compatible pieces in
Right.
the end, and not everything needs to be. So I mean, here's another example. So this is the Atomic Habits. So in Atomic Habits, you will see that I have lots of different sized tiles. You can see here that I have horizontal, vertical, bigger, big, I mean, all sorts of size of cards.
Right.
I have this because this was a bigger idea to cover. But so yeah, but as long, and you can see this brick road here, because then I can place these tiles next to each other, and it actually comes together into a meaningful story.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for letting me in. I'll get out and let somebody else join the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just see. I think we have time for one more question here. How do you organize uh, into how do you organize into if these drawings? It's great idea to visualize concept, but for storage, what structure for navigation and searching is also required due to my workflow. What are your recommendations? Okay, so that's so I'm using, I mean, essentially each of these cards are a file that are stored somewhere in my system. Not a big surprise so far. One thing I'm keen on is using a standard file naming approach, and I don't have a card for it right here, but I do have this card, which is what I call, so these are two important ideas regarding this. So, and mindful of time. So we only have 2 minutes left. So I'm going to give you a high level response here. So first of all, what I try to do is I'm applying this idea from Richard Saul Worman called Latch. Latch stands for location, alphabet, time, category, and hierarchy. And Worman, he's the founder of TED Talks, by the way. Worman, in Information Anxiety, argues that these are the 5 essential ways how you can organize information. And what I call latching is creating as many hooks in each of my notes from these different areas as possible. So I'm tagging my notes with the date when I'm creating them. I'm adding them into this hierarchy of parent-child relationships that you're going to see at scale with Jerry Michalski. I'm adding categories which set the note type and other information. I have a strict file naming structure. So you can see here that this is called a presentation. This was called a book on a page. This was an article on a page. So I can quickly find stuff based on their names. And if it's a special geographical location, then I'm adding location tags as well. And the more connections I have, the better I'm able to find it. Of course, all of this comes down to a folder structure. So you can see here, I have a folder structure with some logic around it. I have something for inputs and then books, and then under the books, I have dedicated files. So in the end, this boils down to a folder structure, but this is one idea. The other idea is the idea compass, which is about adding links to a node such that you can see where that idea leads. So maybe if we come back here, let me open Excalidraw here for a second, and hopefully this is going to work. So this is, let me turn on the image. So this is the card that's then linked to all my other nodes. And you can see here that, for example, the next chapter in the book is the art habit and etc. So I can flip through like this. I can also see that this has a couple of parents. Some of them are the book related, but some of them are other nodes that I can navigate to. This looks a little bit like Jerry's brain, but in a different setup. But yeah, so I think conscious of time, I'll need to leave the answer with that. But in short, I'm using everything. I'm using links. I'm using tags. I'm using all of these tools to connect my nodes, but essentially underneath it are structured file names, folders, tags, links. That's where it boils down to. Thank you for being here. We need to stop here. Please, there's one last thing I want to highlight to you is the following, that there is a networking area.
We're stuck in the folders, the linear lines, pages of text in a text-first design. It's three-dimensional, but half of the mind is waiting for something we left behind. We've got a GPU, a visual core, but the power is dormant. We need so much more. Now flip the perception, let the sketches be seen. With hybrid notes, knowledge is active and keen. Like a bucket of Lego, standardized parts, modular ideas, sparking new arts. We're breaking the rules of the page and the scroll, creating a system that takes back control. It's time to go 4D, break the old form, weather the limits and ride out the storm. Sketch your mind, turning notes into a playground of ideas. Oh, the visuals that'll cast an instant recall, a holistic connection that's open to all. Yeah, we'll build it, we'll share it, we'll make it our own. Our knowledge is system, a seed we have sown. The text is the backside, the detail and source, the visuals, the postcard, the emotional force. We're ambidextrous thinkers, using both hands, moving past bullet points to where the mind expands. The map is a territory laid out on the wall, a living creation that answers the call from engineer's mind to the Obsidian screen. The Excalidraw plugin shows us where we have been. Like a bucket of Lego, standardized parts, modular ideas, sparking new arts. We're breaking the rules of the page and the scroll, creating a system that takes back control. It's time to go 4D, break the old form. let the structure appear. Serendipity machine brings the far-fetched connection near. You don't need to be able to draw a straight line. Just look at your concepts and make them shine.